the regulations and how it will be run. So these are, we kind of dug around. This information is not really easy to get. You got it floating around out there, but what we wanted to do with the summit has always been a place for knowledge and for sharing knowledge and for creating a path to, you know, where our culture and our community is going. So we feel like, well, let's talk about this today. Let's start it out with that, because the B-Boy Summit was started basically so we could have a platform, so we could have a voice, so that we could even dance, right? I mean, Easy can tell you too, really at that point, 25 years ago, B-boying was considered kind of passe and played out. And we weren't really getting any love from the hip-hop community. Our own community was really turning their backs on us. So we decided to create this event in order to have a place and uphold the traditional dance of hip-hop and preserve it and proliferate it. So really having this conversation about, we would have never probably thought we were going to be having this conversation 25 years ago. So that's exciting. You know, and at the end of the day, look, the summit, we're a cultural platform. We're not a tour. We're not a sanctioned UDEF event. It doesn't go down like that here. We don't do that here. This is about the community. This is about the culture first. That's why we keep this event going. That is straight. That's the only reason why. There's plenty of tours. There's plenty of competitive events out there. I mean, you know, if the only reason people go anywhere is to enter a battle anymore, like, I feel sad for our culture, really, because that's not, like, that's an afterthought. So the summit is just, we're here to keep pushing hip-hop, all the elements, the culture, the community first, and uplifting b-boying and b-girling as an art form, right? So we're just going to kind of dive into this. We have B-Boy House here to my right, who is a great asset to this community as a you know, a seasoned vet b-boy, been in the mix very, very long time, upholds his community over in Arizona, and also is an educator as well, you know, in universities and so on and so forth. So we just thought it'd be cool for him to help us facilitate this discussion, and we're going to even go into some breakout groups where you guys can talk amongst yourselves and then present it back. So, House, do you want to just sort of jump in and start kind of what we're doing?
Peace, y'all. All right, so what we're going to do right here is I'm going to just go through some of the facts that we do know, some of the information, and then if people sitting up here on the panel have any additional, oh, perfect, that's even better than my phone. Additional information or we have concerns or whatnot, this is the time to like talk about it, right? Like they just, this is probably the first public meeting that we're having about this, so it's an important step that we need to have these conversations, because we get together and dance, but we need to have these conversations. So we're talking about the Olympics, and I'm going to go through some of the information that we do know about it, right? So every breaker has to be approved by the country's Olympic committee. Even if you are the best in the world, if your country isn't sending anyone to the games, then you cannot compete. Right, so the events that will qualify for WDSF, which is the World Dance Sports Federation, rankings are not yet since the final decisions. So it's still going to be decided in 2020 in December. So it's not completely finalized.
What is the final?
The events that will qualify for WDSF.
So I'll just translate.
Yep.
So first point, if you want to go and be there, your country has to be able to send you. And the second point being that the WDSF is that entity, and they have not yet decided or put together these initial competitive events. So nothing started yet as far as that.
All right, so they've already had some of the WDSF competitions that are warm-ups.
Preliminary.
Yeah, preliminaries for the Olympic Games to help boost the chances of breaking being in the Olympics. Qualifying events for Olympics won't happen until 2022.
So qualifiers not till 2022. Got some time.
Only 16 breakers from each gender will be able to compete, so there will be not be representation from every country.
Say that last part again.
16 breakers from each gender. Okay, so there will not be representation from every country. Yep.
So basically, what's up is that there's 16 breakers in the Olympics in 2024 for each gender. So
and that's all totaled in the world.
That's
so
all
16 women, 16 men.
Yes, and that means not every country will be represented. So once going back to the qualifying games for the Olympics, that's not starting until 2022. That's the information we got from WDSF. The current events that have gone on, that's been in China and going to be happening in Budapest, these are all just events that the WDSF is doing to kind of warm up towards the breaking community. Because they don't want to just throw an event for the Breaking Olympics in 2024 without kind of having some contact or just connection to the breaking community already.
Okay.
Winning events will not be enough to get into the games. You must pass anti-doping and get a license. Anybody got more info on that?
So, translation of anti-doping and licenses, you have to be a certified adult within your country's standards and regulations, and anti-doping means you must not use any sort of drugs or enhancements.
Drug tested.
Yes, for the Olympic Games.
Word. Colorado.
So nobody go to that Kush booth over there.
Official funding for Olympic qualified breaking athletes are not established yet, but the Youth Olympics Games had several breakers receive Olympic solidarity. Olympic solidarity is providing financial need for the countries who need it the most by some of DSF's national member bodies. So they are getting some funding.
Say that last part again.
Olympic by some of WDF's national.
So what had happened recently last year with the Kids Olympics, there was not an official funding, but there's Olympic funding that kind of sets up to support people trying to go to the Olympic Games, and it's from like supporting organizations and bodies that help fund the Olympics. But Olympics as a whole doesn't have like a bank that provides the money. It's just like supporters and patrons that help provide the money that get the dancers to come out to these events.
So we got to start thinking about that kind of thing. You know, how do we get that in the U.S.? How do we get patrons to support, you know, B-boys and B-girls going to the Olympics? You know, how does that work? These are all things kind of, need to be bubbling in our minds, because none of this is going to be figured out for us. And if we just sit back, we just got to be empowered to start thinking about how this works, because it's not impossible to make it happen,
There's no official ranking system yet. What does that mean?
That's not the judging system though, right? Ranking system. World Dance Sport Federation. That's just it's an association that is in charge of all of the Olympic activities that relate to dance sport. So we have the guy that we reached out to, Jean-Luc. What was his name? Jean Laurent. He did not comment back, unfortunately, but it's all right. We still got pretty much a lot of information from several different sources. Anything else on this part?
Organizers are asked on case-by-case basis to help with the WDSF events, so there's no specific body of people to report towards concerning the Olympics.
There you go. See, that's just dead that question in everybody's mind. Who's in charge? Who's already set up? Who's in there? Nobody's in there. It's just the World Dance Sport Federation, and it just said it very, very clearly there. They are not. They have no specific body of people to report towards concerning the Olympics. So people need to stop being paranoid and be like, oh, it's all crazy legs, or it's all this dude, or it's all that dude. It's really not. And even more, I reached out to all of those people that I thought were involved, that I had heard through the grapevine online. Legs not involved, doesn't know nothing. Hurricane is involved in France. Okay, great. That's a good. Well, it seems like somebody should be over there, since that's where it's starting. But all the people that we've sort of heard circulate are not. Cross says he knows nothing. Like, legit, he straight up said that. He doesn't know anything. Kenny is not a supporter, so he doesn't know anything at all. Whether or not he's... I literally was talking to him about it like 2 days ago, and he said, that has nothing to do with it. I'm not involved. I know it's weird. I don't understand either, but he legit says, I don't support it. I'm not involved. So, and then, what else?
That's it. So we can just go into some of these questions.
Okay.
So we have a few questions here that we can open up to everybody.
Start putting out. Okay.
Yeah. So these events are competitive events. They're not designed to fill in all of the cultural necessities of a jam. So as a community, how do we feel about that? Right. So they're not catered as a cultural event. It is what it is.
It's not a cultural event. It's I mean, to me, it doesn't sound much different than the pro breaking tour. I mean, it's pretty much seems like to me it seems very similar. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying, well, look, that's already been done. People already accepted that. They're cool with that. The structure's already kind of there. I mean, you know, I think it's not about citing. It's about saying, look, the great thing is that this work has already been done, right? It's proven that it works, that the community accepts it, that there's people interested in doing it, that there's a ranking system, right? And there's an association that kind of goes along with it, which is UDEF. So whether or not people are totally on board or not with that, it seems at least like those things make sense when it comes to this, because that is the behind the scene work that would have to be done, right?
Hey, look, it's gonna be eventually televised, and that's a lot of what it's gonna come down to. What is watchable? What are people gonna watch? The masses. They're gonna watch the flashiness. They're not gonna be really concerned with the culture and the way we feel about it. They're gonna be into like, wow, that was amazing, you know, entertainment, and that's really kind of what it's gonna boil down to. They're stripping it down to the most flashy thing that they can put on TV.
I kind of disagree. I think that what it's going to be, I don't think people care that much. Like, it's exciting to watch a fight, right? Like a championship fight or a match or something. But what people really like is the B-roll footage. Like, how does that dude live? Like, how did he get to be that good? Like, where does he train? Who taught him? I think all of that is the part that excites me, because to me, that part is all that B-roll footage. I think people are going to be like, what is this hip-hop stuff?
Yeah, me too.
You know, what's going on
I'm talking
here?
about the masses that are asleep. I don't know. I love that stuff too. But
No,
yeah.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I think the backstory is, I think no matter what's going to happen, people are going to learn more about breaking, right? And that's going to lead them more into b-boying, and that's going to lead them more into hip-hop. So there are going to be important roles, in my opinion, that will be available as a part of that, whether it's just getting like the old school heads to getting their stories documented more, or being able to have people kind of share their stories that haven't been able to before. I think I believe that probably will happen.
More. Can I speak
Go for it,
a
Gramps.
little bit on those, elaborating on both of those? So both of them are really important points, but both of them actually reside inside of the after effects of what happens. They'll be considered content, and they'll be considered different kind of content to strip down for different reasons for exposure. So that being said, I think more of our concern is whose hands they're handled in rather than what they do with it, because they have to make it exciting for viewership. They have to make it real content for the real competitors. They have to make it the reality part for the reality consumer. But the control of those things, the reality of what reality, whom's reality, just like, for example, the flashiness, that was a word that Izu's rocker was using, the flashy part. Well, that could be meaning that they take out all the top rock, take out all the footwork, and they just show you flare after flare, air flare after air flare, and then you don't even really see the concept of what they're doing. It just becomes this show off. And then that would be a different concept. So I understand that as well. So it's about whose hands they're in to be able to say this is what is proper, this is what's improper in terms of what it is that they're capturing. Even for the DPs, how they're capturing it, it should be somebody in important hands, so that we know, people that are experts in this have captured it. A lot of the time, our culture is exposed in the third person. That means the person behind the camera. And so our culture is only exposed as good as the eye of the cameraman and as good as the words that he shares when he does media. And so we need to make sure the cameramen are inside hip-hop culture. We need to make sure that the producers and the directors and everybody else. And getting back to this, there is a panel that's been put together. The panel, it's been very difficult to have this panel put together. It was done by John and here for what's happening in USA Dance in terms of being able to be involved. Because right now, US is one of the few countries that is involved because of all of the regulations and rules. Now, in any competition or any form of competitive events, there's rules and regulations, and people have to know those rules and regulations. And if you're not eligible, you're not eligible. And that takes out a big chunk of what our culture is. So there will always be places for real culture because our culture is built off of people that define those lines, that blur those lines, that define what an athlete or an artist is or the combination between the two. So as we look forward for the kids, I think all of our concern is mainly we want it to be done the best it could possibly be done, the right way, according to the way we lived our lives and put in all these years. And then in addition to that, not be subject to what the Olympic standard already is, because once you put in the Olympics, there's a standard. That standard is very simple. You have to become a member. You have to pay to play. You have to pay to be a member so that you can even go in their battle. You have to pay to get in the battle because they need to be able to identify you in their computer that this is a competitor, they paid. And once you're able to pay, then you're able to get on there and vote on their website. You have no say until you pay to get on their website. So there should be some point where the people they ask to provide services for free should not have to pay for that. They should be honorarily put on there. But every year you have to pay again. And so every year that you pay, whoever pays can vote a new person on the committee or vote themselves on the committee. And that's another flaw, that it's in fragile hands of who's on the committee. It should be an important committee of people that know their business, not someone that can be just chosen because they're popular that year. And we don't need the best battler on the panel. We need the best battler in the battle. We need intelligent, good people that are B-boys and B-girls that understand this culture to be on those panels.
Dope. Thank you for that. So the next question kind of leads right into what Grams is already talking about as far as events. Where do we want the qualifying events to be, and how would we like them to be run? Considering that there's only 16 available spots, each spot representing the country. So basically one spot for us, right? So Graham already touched on some of that. So do we have any opinions as far as how we would want to see them to run, or where we would want them to be? And how do we get down to that one? So where do we want qualifying events to be, and how would we like them to be run? No, I think that's what the discussion is about. So we can have some kind of input, so we can somehow get it to that table.
Well, I'm just curious about like having the input, and seems like they haven't reached out. Like if a lot of these people don't have a clue as what's going on, or they're just saying they're not involved, like why they haven't reached out, or is it like
So what is
our
they?
So they haven't reached out.
They, whoever
They're not
the
gonna
Olympic
reach out.
Committee,
They don't know.
They're not
nobody
reaching
from
out.
It's up to
Bboy.
us
Yeah.
to figure all this out ourselves.
You have to
Is that what
become a
this is
member of
about?
their website and then ask them and vote, and then even tell them, hey, I'd like to produce an event, and they'll give you all of the formula, what they say is the criteria to be able to throw their event so that they can sanction it, and they'll let you know if they even could say yes. But they're not going to have a lot.
They don't have that figured out yet, though, Graham.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not what it really seems like, and it's kind of exactly how I thought. I'm not even playing. Like I was like, it's up to us. It's up to people that want to work to put this stuff together for free. All right? There's no money in this. There's no money in organizing, right? I don't get paid to do this. This isn't like you don't get paid to organize. When you're an organizer, you organize. That's just what you do. So, hip hop wasn't ever really about money. So it's really about people that have the skill set and the desire to put in some time and work to organize this stuff, to organize events, to organize, to help get a established judging system together, which seems like they kind of have, but maybe not. Things like that, and to test it out and to, and run it. It's just like, imagine if you're a promoter, you know how to do an event. You got to get some sponsors. You got to do yada yada. I mean, there's still sponsors that I'm sure would be interested to say, hey, look, we're having these little preliminary, Olympic qualifying events. I mean, I think any sponsor would be like, what? Word. Okay, let me, throw some at you. I think it's totally doable, but again, we got to empower ourselves. I feel like at one point, we kind of, as a community, decided to say, when are they going to tell us what to do? When are they going to tell us where to show up? When they don't have any of that. We have to create this. We have to create the events. We have to create the judging system. We have to create the ranking system, and it has to be approved, right? And then we have to just roll with it. So there's roles there. To me, it's pretty plain. There's roles in organizing. There's roles in creating these ranking systems. And it can't be a bunch of bickering. Like, people can't go online and just be blasting at fools and just making everybody turn their computer off. That's stupid. You know, I mean, and if you're here and you're doing that, we should come talk, because we could figure out a way to pacify you and where you can get attention without having to do that online.
Well, you know what? Social media has been kind of misleading them, because I've been getting hit up, or for a while, like last month, I was getting hit up like left and right by different people wanting me to endorse the whole Olympic thing, and I didn't have anything to say on it because I didn't have any information. But it seemed it just, for me, it seemed like it was like some kind of package that was already established.
I thought so too.
But now I guess
thought so too at one
not.
point.
So who was even sending all that stuff, like trying to get me to endorse something that doesn't even seem like it exists right now?
No, there's several different packages, which that's why it's fragile. So one is the system that they're using. 2 is the Olympic Committee that governs the entire world, and 3 is what's happening just in the U.S. And those are 3 different layers of things that are complicated and trying to figure out. The panel I was talking about was them trying to build the U.S. one, which has not been working for the last half a year. All 3 of the meetings we had, half of the people that are supposed to be on the panel were never on the panel, which
And
means
they
it's
don't call.
incomplete.
They don't call other people. I mean, I'm not gonna be. Nobody ever reached out for me for anything, and I think that's funny because I'm an organizer. It's what I do. I'm not tripping on no. You know, but I organize. That's what I like to do. I like to disseminate information. I like to bring people together, and a lot of those people know that. You know, that guy Steve Graham knows it. Different people know it. I think sometimes they just, you know, people want to just count people out already initially, just to kind of, I don't know. Maybe I'm just paranoid. I don't know.
I
Go
heard
ahead.
my name came because people requested my name or sent in my name, so they called me saying that several people mentioned my name. So I'm not sure how else anybody else is on that panel, but someone did represent his company as well on the panel.
So I'll just bring a little bit of what I think. Just like you guys, I feel a little bit lost with the whole Olympics. I was more part of the Youth Olympic as one of the judges, and I was able to participate to one of the qualifiers in Japan. And honestly, being there and seeing how it happened, I was pretty happy with how it went down, only because when I was judging and I was watching the B-boys and B-girls battling, to me it felt like another event. I didn't feel like I was out of place, or that the dance itself wasn't necessarily being represented wrong. So I kind of left that experience with, you know, like all the time, you put, you know, the positive and negative. I'm not saying it was all great, but I saw where it could go, especially for the future, and I was not unhappy with it. Turned out that I didn't get a chance to go to the final in Buenos Aires, so I was pretty disappointed, because that was the point of me getting involved, like in the first place. When they reached out to me, obviously, like, it would seem kind of weird, you know, someone like me who's all about, you know, the community and the Cypher addicts, you know, a lot of people were questioning my involvement, and my answer to that is, I'd rather be involved with something and try to bring in either my philosophy or my vision, or try to, you know, empower what I believe, like, you know, people in what I believe, or help something get better, rather than be, you know, behind and unhappy with what I see and really do nothing about it. So that was my first reason why I got involved, because I wanted to have a front seat of how everybody was handling the things, and see if that's something that I could help, you know, in a certain way. So, like I say, with the qualifiers, I was pretty happy, but my thing was that I wanted to see where it would lead to with the finals, and I didn't get a chance to be a part of it. So, again, that was disappointing, but from the feedback that I got, so I wasn't, and honestly, I don't have an answer on why I wasn't. I think a lot of it also has to do with countries. Like, the reason why I'm a little bit lost is because a lot of it is they have like regulations and rules that are really unfamiliar to how we go about things. Like, when we throw events, when we throw battles, like, we want everybody to come, and at the end of the day, whoever's gonna battle or win is gonna be the best of the night or the day, you know what I mean? When it comes to the Olympics, I just feel like there's so much things that are unrelated to the way that we handle things, that unfortunately we don't get all the information. Like, a lot of people were complaining about the US not being represented, but that had nothing to do with like boycott or it really has to do with, I think, how the Olympics itself works. You know what I mean? So my issue is I always feel like I don't have all the information. But on the flip side, I think I feel like sometimes we need to kind of stop waiting for people to come to us. You know what I mean? Like some of us do
Right.
get...
That's what I'm talking about. We just need to
Exactly.
like, say, all right, let's get this committee going. Let's get some people on it. And most people have good intentions. I mean, we don't need to be so paranoid. People have good intentions. I don't have all the ideas. I love to work with people that have different ideas or think differently than me, and then we can all come to the table and start chopping it up and see what work needs to be done and ask people to help out getting the work done. And I think it'd be really positive right now, and it would help people feel like that they're part of something rather than they're all just waiting in the wings or uninformed.
Yeah, and I feel like if you feel uninformed, go ask questions. You know what I mean? Like, and if people don't answer, I mean, we have social media nowadays where I know everybody wants to post about what they're doing and how successful they are, but you can also use social media as a way to really not only spread knowledge, but also call people out. And I don't mean calling them out in a negative way. I mean like, hey, I'm calling you out right now on this subject because I'm really lost and I'm not the only one being lost. So can you please, enlighten us? Like, give us some answer, like explain to us what's going on. So I think we have to be the ones that are being more proactive rather than kind of wait on people to, reach out to us. Because I'll be honest, like nobody cares about anyone but themselves. At the end of the day, we all have good intentions, but everybody's busy with their own lives. So whoever is at the committee, like those people are working with the ones that are constantly in their face. And I've seen that. I've seen it with UDEF. I've seen it with it's not that people are trying to boycott anyone. It's just that when you have people in your face constantly, like giving you ideas, wanting to take you to certain directions, that's who they're listening to. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we might feel like they're not legit, like that those people shouldn't be where they are, but at the end of the day, they're the ones waking up every day and reaching out and giving ideas and coming up with either solutions or things. And we are not. We're just here wondering what is happening. And so my thing is, if you're really wondering, and if you want to get involved, you have to make the move. You know what I mean? And if doors are closing, find another one to open. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like what I was explaining before when I was trying to get more opportunities for Bgirls, where a lot of us were complaining, saying that we were not getting any opportunities. But the thing is, you can't just expect things to just happen and be served on a platter. You know what I mean? And it sucks because I do feel like many people are deserving. They put so much work and they have the history and they are legit. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you want something, you're just gonna have to keep on pushing. And if nobody is helping you out, make it happen yourself. You know what I mean? Like create conversations, create events.
Well, look, I've been saying for years now that this is going to kind of go off, not just because obviously we don't have enough information about this, we don't know the right ways to get in yet, but I've been saying for years that there needs to be a ranking system because this is going to become a sport eventually, or we are sporty, like we do battle each other, we are like fucking
Sporty.
we are so sporty.
I'm sporty spice.
No, but look, I'm coming from a background people really know, like I used to BMX ride, so I was sponsored by GT, rode for Vans, I competed in American Freestyle Association, so I know what it's like to have to be a member to compete. I know about a lot of these things, and I know there's a ranking system. But whenever we've tried to do ranking systems here, it's event by event. It's promoter by promoter. Nobody agrees on one that can work and transition equally among all the events. And that has been a problem for years, I think. But for people to climb the ladder, and they have to be ranked. For people to say, like, go to a corporate sponsor and say, look, I'm ranked in the top 5, and I'm looking for sponsorship, and I want to be the best there is, but I have to pay rent, and I just need a sponsor to help me with that. I mean, we need a ranking system for people who want to compete at that level, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is, man, I've always been for that. But I just don't know. This ranking system, this whole Olympic thing just seems really, really complicated right now. But regardless, like what Jay was saying is, like, we need to be on the same page, and we need to be at least thinking of things like that. Like, what if the Olympics doesn't happen? What if it doesn't? Because, I mean, you know, it might just go, they might be like, it was just way too difficult to work with all these people. You know, we have to be thinking for ourselves, but we got to be still reaching for that goal in the future, because that's just, it just needs to go there eventually. And the last thing I wanted to say is, look, I always compared things to skating, because I used to skate too, and I work with so many professional skaters, and a real pro skater at the end of the day, they could compete and make millions of dollars and have sponsorships and big houses and stuff, but they're still going to go down the street with their kids and wreck the skate park with their kids. And that's the thing that I just want to make sure, like, that's the thing I hope that will happen in the future, is that we can reach that level where the best competitors can make money and make a living at this, but they don't just turn their back on the culture. They just actually go out and just wreck shop at a club or a park jam or whatever and support the culture. It's at the same time. There's no reason we couldn't do that. So that's just what I wanted. That was my sort of angle at this whole thing, was my background experience on that. But the Olympics, man, I don't know.
We appreciate that. So we're gonna wrap it up. I mean, I think some of the points here are that, number one is there's opportunity, right? There's opportunity for everybody to be involved. So if this is something that you care about, you can do something regardless of how small or big a space or region that you, right? And there's an opportunity for that. Like, obviously we're confused ourselves about this information. So if you're really good at doing research, you're really good at getting information together, you become very valuable, right? So maybe I'm not you got to create your own lane. I'm not the best breaker in the world, but I still want to be involved in this, so I went to education, you know what I mean? So I still want to be involved some way. So there's other things other than just like being the best dancer, right? Because that's not going to last forever either.
And
there's a lot of spaces. Go ahead.
There is a lot of spaces, and I'm definitely willing to, as No Easy Props, like, offer that platform. We are a hip-hop based nonprofit, you know, promoting cultural arts, youth, families, free events, which is why we have the summit. We're more than willing to come on board and do legwork. Like, or if people want more information, they want to come work with us to get some of this moving, because we're probably going to start getting it moving. I mean, we're kind of like, well, why not? Why don't we just put together, you know, some heads and start getting this moving and reaching out to people and seeing if people want to do events and finding some sponsors. Like, it can happen. So if you want to get involved, you can definitely reach out to our organization, noeasyprops.org. You just Google us or whatever, look at the flyer, what have you, and say, hey, I want to be involved. I want to do something, and we'll get you involved. We'll find a place for you. So that's kind of like why we had this too, because we're like, well, let's just start something. Let's just start the ball rolling, even if it changes and, you know, does whatever it does. At least we'll be organized as a community and a group of people to say, hey, we're willing to put in some work. But listen, I want to thank you guys for being here. I know, you know, you guys have all had some information or some, you know, been involved in some capacity, or else, or just care about this community enough to want to be here and talk about this. I really appreciate you guys coming forward and helping facilitate this early discussion, right? Because we haven't had a talking about this really yet in a public setting. So this is the first one, and, you know, mainly, yeah, keep each other informed. Don't hold on to information, and, you know, help people understand what's going on and be that support system for people.